Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
He needs care and treatment.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Is this a great country or what?
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. It means we're brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. It is NFL Draft Week. Feels like we talk about that for 4 months straight until it happens, but it's here. We'll talk a little bit about the Saints action coming up on Thursday. Garrett Nussmeier had a little bit of a medical diagnosis. We'll talk about that at the end of hour number one. LSU football went through about 2 hours of practice, and the Myers man was sitting right next to me, so I did have to make one bathroom run and facilitate some Wendy's eating. But in the middle of all that, I did chart the scrimmage and write a report up on that, so we'll talk about what we saw from a really good offensive day for LSU inside Tiger Stadium at 1:30. There is plenty to do. Let's start it with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
Well, I watched every pitch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I commented on about 85% of them, and LSU felt in the ball game for very, very few across 3 days. Texas A&M completely outclassed LSU for 3 days over the weekend at Alex Box Stadium in a sweep, the second consecutive sweep LSU has suffered in SEC play. That has not happened since 2021, and it was a miserable weekend at Alex Box Stadium. There's just not another way to say that. And we're going to talk in the next segment about what Jay Johnson had to say over the weekend, and I think that's a story in and of itself. But I want to talk about the baseball first before we get to what was said in the press room. And I told you on Friday and reiterated on the broadcast and wrote in my preview for LouisianaSports.net and just generally had the sentiment entering the weekend, like, if you're going to beat Texas A&M, you have to go out there and score 8, 9, 10, 11 runs. That's what it takes. A&M has scored double-digit runs in almost half their league games. They lead the SEC in runs scored. They lead the SEC in doubles. They lead the SEC in slugging. They lead the SEC in walks. They strike out the fewest times in the league. They are a potent bunch offensively. If you're going to beat that team, you're going to have to do it against their pitching. And teams have done that. Teams have hit A&M pitching all conference season long. You're talking about a team that gave up 18 runs over 3 games to Missouri. You're talking about a team that allowed Vanderbilt to score 14 runs in a single game in league play. Tennessee Tech scored 14 runs. Georgia hit 10 home runs off this staff. They would send guys in, and I would read the stats off on the broadcast, and consistently, you're talking about arms that are coming in that are allowing SEC bats to hit 333. Shane Sadeo had allowed 10 homers. It's a staff that has really, really struggled. They were 14th in the SEC in ERA. You are going to have to hit those guys to beat Texas A&M. So what did you do? Well, you went out there over the course of 3 games, and you were 22 for 101. That is a 218 batting average. 218. It only got worse when you threatened to score, which didn't happen very often. You were 7 of 40 with runners on base. That's a 175 average. And when you got runners in scoring position, you did that 17 times, 1 for 17. 1 K to Aaron Beatty hit on Friday. That's it. 0-59 with runners in scoring position. Just a complete no-show by the offense. I am willing often to tip my cap to the opposition. You look at Ole Miss's arms, Cade Townsend, good. Hunter Elliott, tough. Taylor Rabe on Sunday, legit stuff. You look at A&M's bats, I will tip my cap. You give up a homer to Gavin Kahovic, it happens, man. That guy's a stud. Former SEC Freshman of the Year. Caden Sorrell gets into one and hits a smoked line drive out to right field on Sunday with the wind howling in. Tip my cap. Chris Akopian, going to be a top 10 pick. Got no problem with that. I tip my cap to the opposition all the time. I can't do that to Texas A&M's pitching. It's not very good. I watched him. Sims has a good mix with a cutter and a slider. He's tough, and he put LSU in a blender on Saturday. His final line, 7 innings, 2 runs. That's the only guy they threw out there that's done anything this year. You're talking about a starter you saw on Friday, as I mentioned, that has given up 10 long balls. His ERA entering SEC play was over 9. Weston Moss lost his job as a starter. Gavin Lyons came in. He was allowing SEC hitters to hit .333 against him on the season. And you just didn't do anything. It was a good night to hit on Friday. It was a good night to hit on Saturday. Sunday was a tough day to hit. But LSU just didn't mount anything on offense. And you combine that with the fact that the starting pitching was bad. That's too strong. Let me take that back. Didn't mean to say that. Starting pitching wasn't very good. It's a tough lineup to deal with. And I thought Kason Evans and William Schmidt were gutty. But at this point, that's kind of what they are, is gutty. They've both had one stellar outing. Evans dominated Oklahoma. Schmidt was great against Kentucky. The rest of their outings have been average or not very good. William Schmidt got off to such a great start against Ole Miss for 3 innings, and then the rope got snapped and Ole Miss 10-run LSU. You look at those 3 guys, Evans, Schmidt, Cowan over the weekend, they allowed 17 earned runs on 17 hits in 13 innings. That's an 11.70 ERA. They gave up 5 home runs. Now you look at Evans' outing, and he had only allowed 1 run through 4 innings. He was keeping LSU in the game. That first run came around on a leadoff walk. Turn around in the 5th, and he gives up another leadoff walk. But you get to 2 outs, and you've got a chance to get off the field in a tight game. And honestly, Evans makes a pretty good pitch through a changeup to Hakopian that started off the plate, faded back toward the outside corner, and a great hitter made a great swing and slapped it up the middle for an RBI hit. And then Jake Dewar plated 2 more. He got a single up the middle, and then A&M had opened things up. That probably should have ended Evans' night. It was 4-1, and honestly, he probably should have come out of the game there. But here's what Jay Johnson is thinking. It's Friday night, and Evans is kind of my best guy. I can't really go to Cowan here. I can't go to Sheeran here because we're losing by 3 runs. So I'm going to try to leave my horse out there for 1 more inning. And it didn't work. He hung a breaking ball to Jorian Wilson, and he launched it into the trees. So now all of a sudden you're way down in that game. Fast forward to Schmidt. Schmidt did not have issues with walks. That's sometimes been an issue for him. His issue on Saturday was that he was leaving fastballs right down Broadway. Threw a heater right down the chute. Bear Harrison hit it out to left field. Threw a heater right down the chute. Grahovec hit one out. Threw a heater right down the chute. Chris Hakopian lined a double down into left field. And he's trying to hold the rope as long as he can while LSU has no semblance of an offense against Aiden Sims. And Schmidt finally ran out of gas in the 6th inning and walked 3 straight guys. And that was the end of his night, and 2 of those scored. You look at Cowan on Sunday, and Cowan just didn't have any command. He's a guy who relies on pinpoint command. He did not have that at all. He was behind in counts early. He walked more guys on Saturday than he had in the other SEC outings he had posted previously combined. His final line on the day was 2 2/3, 4 earned runs allowed, but he walked 3. He had walked 3 entering the season. He only walked 1 in SEC play. He walked 3. And those guys just didn't get you off to a very good start. And surprise, surprise, as has been the case for LSU for 7 weeks now, they just fall out of bed and they're down 2-0, down 3-0. On Friday, you give up 1 in the 3rd, and then you give up 3 in the 5th, and you're down 4-1. On Saturday, you give up 3 in the 2nd and 2 in the 3rd, and immediately it's 5-1. And on Sunday, you give up 1 in the 1st, 1 in the 2nd, 2 in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th, 5-0. They're behind immediately in almost every game. and it handcuffs the way Jay Johnson can possibly manage. Now, hopefully the bullpen is coming along a little bit because they did throw the ball really well on Saturday and Sunday. The bullpen was fantastic. Sheeran was great. Paz was great. I thought Santiago Garcia threw the ball well. I thought Connor Benz threw the ball well. Cooper Williams got a couple big outs. I thought the bullpen was pretty good, and maybe those guys are getting a little bit better because there are some guys that have had really good outings over the last 3 weeks out of the bullpen. But you struggle with who to go to when you're down 3 or 4 runs because you feel like it's unlikely your offense is going to mount a threat to come back. They've certainly done it at times on Sundays, but it never came on this Sunday. The one time the pitching did hold up and you didn't have to score 17 runs to win a game on Sunday, the bats just no-showed. Defense was actually okay. It's just this ever-evolving game of whack-a-mole with LSU, where at one point the starting pitching was kind of the only positive. You couldn't swing the bat or find anybody to play, and your defense was atrocious. And then your offense kind of woke up for a 3-week span, and the defense was awful, and starting pitching scuffled at times. Bullpen was terrible. Now the bullpen's coming alive, and the defense was fine this weekend, and the starting pitching pitches you out of the game immediately. It's just whack-a-mole every single week, and it's just difficult to watch. And I understand there are a lot of you that have mailed that in. More power to you. I don't really have that option, nor would I take it if I was given the option, but it is not any fun to watch. I was sitting there in the press box all weekend, really all weekend, thinking about that scene from Remember the Titans where Coach Boone comes in the gym and he's talking to the team and he talks to Petey. It says football is fun. You think football is fun? And then Petey eventually goes, "Zero fun, sir." That's what it felt like. And it's felt like that for a month. Zero fun, sir. There was a little bit of fun on Easter in Knoxville, a little bit of fun on Sunday against Kentucky, a little bit of fun when you get Curiel hit a grand slam. But quite honestly, if you look at LSU, they have played 18 league games. 18 league games. That is not a small sample size. 18. And they have twice in 18 games gone out on the field, pitched it nicely, defended nicely, swung the bats, and won a reasonable conference game. It's happened twice. Kason Evans dominated Oklahoma with the 15 strikeouts, and you won an easy game there. And then Schmidt against Kentucky on Saturday. I think you beat him 7-0. Schmidt was very good. Bullpen was good. Produced some runs. It was a normal game. The other wins that you have are ridiculous Sunday free-for-all in Nashville, Curiel grand slam in the 8th inning in Knoxville, then Sunday in Knoxville where it was a circus out there. Like, these are your wins. They don't ever go out there and just play a workmanlike game. And that's really disappointing and quite honestly shocking. It's probably not a segment for today. It's probably a segment for a different time where I come to you and say where I missed on my evaluation of this team. I'm not alone. They were ranked 2nd in the country. Everybody was picking them to be one of the best teams in the land. But I can't account for everybody's prognostication. I can only account for my own. And I watched this team a good bit in the fall, and I watched them a little bit preseason, and it's just not a very good baseball team. And that's pretty shocking at this point in the calendar. Now, Jay Johnson talked about that post-game, and it was jarring to listen to. It was Friday night after the game, and I did the games on radio with Chris, and so I didn't go to the post-game press conferences. We were doing post-game in the booth. But I got home, and I was just going to decompress and watch some stupid golf video on YouTube or something. And I thought, I should probably listen to what Jay had to say just for beat writer purposes. And I listened to it, and I went, oh, my God. So we'll play that bite for you in the next segment, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. But it was pretty shocking for me to hear that from the head coach. We'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Closet space is maybe not something you think about all the time. I certainly didn't. Bought a house that I really, really liked, lived in it in a great part of town, and fiance moved in, now my wife, and she's like, this closet situation is atrocious. And I was like, oh, really? And we didn't call David Duvall at One Bath and Closets because we were going to move. We were going to have that second kiddo. We needed more space, so we decided not to make a change. But you don't have to move to improve your situation in that closet. If you're got a ton of clutter, a ton of junk, can't find anything, knock out some space and create a new space for your closet. Maybe you have enough space, you just don't use it properly. David can do that as well. Just have that free consultation. Sit down with David and talk about what you're looking for. He'll give you some solutions and what he can do. And he'll do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's David Duvall on One Bath and Closets. Find him online at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Monday show is always brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. GuaranteeHealth.com is where you can find them, GuaranteeHealth.com. They are guiding healthcare forward at Guarantee Health Solutions. You know, Guarantee Health Solutions was born out of experience. Rachel Fricke, who runs the show over there, unfortunately her mother was diagnosed with cancer, and Rachel was right there every step of the way during her mother's medical journey and realized how impersonal it was, how transactional it was, and really how unpleasant the entire experience was. And so her idea, coming from a background of hospitality in the hotel business, was like, well, why don't we bring hospitality into healthcare? And that's what they help do at Guarantee Health Solutions. So if you're in the healthcare space, whether you have a private clinic, whether you're an urgent care, dental office, a hospital, whatever the case may be, and you haven't given significant thought to the healthcare experience that your patients go through, contact Guarantee Health Solutions. They are there every step of the way, from making sure that your website is accessible, functional, and helpful, to making sure that the experience inside the office, inside the clinic, is a pleasant one. They can train your front desk. They can handle your marketing. It's a one-stop shop at Guarantee Health Solutions. So check them out online, GuaranteeHealth.com, GuaranteeHealth.com. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. All right, as I told you at the end of that first segment, I was really taken aback by Jay Johnson's comments on Friday, and there have been a lot of different reactions to it. I'm going to play this first bite in its totality. I think it's important to do that. It is a minute and a half, which is longer than most sound bites we play here, and it touches on a number of things, and he does a job of kind of staying a little bit vague while really hammering home a point, and I'll editorialize on it afterward. But this is Jay Johnson after Friday's loss, essentially suggesting that there were mistakes made in July of last year that they can't make up for.
I think it's a deep-rooted thing. We're off, and it will never happen again. We need to be able to stay on the ball better and, hit the ball back through the middle of the field and the other way and hit the ball lower with shorter swings. It's not the era that these players that we are coaching right now have grown up in. A lot of them, talk about exit velo and distance and home runs and all, and those are great. We have plenty of home runs, honestly. Like, I think we're 4th in the league or 5th in the league in homers. If you attached professional at-bats, which what we're known for, what we're a staple of, why we have 2 national championships. With the power on this team, it would be plenty. I made some mistakes in constructing the team and trying to replace 2 guys that were irreplaceable, where we should have looked for replacing them through guys that were already in the program and then replaced the guys that were athletic and could play defense and be more complete players. Okay, we won't make that mistake again. The power moving forward will come from players that start their career here and develop into it, like Jake has, per se, this year. But I can't do anything about that now. But what I can do is try to get them to understand, like Texas A&M, a top 5 team, won the game tonight because they hit the ball hard and low the other way. When did we do it one time? Kate Arambidi did it tonight, okay, and a 2-out RBI. But that was a one time. But when we pop up to short, ground out to short, fly ball to center field, the appearance is we're trying to do too much. And trying to do too much is not a plan or a sign of a mature offensive baseball team. And that's my responsibility. And that will get fixed.
So it's a lot to chew on there. But the main point and the most volatile soundbite that was in there, where I made some mistakes in constructing the team, trying to replace 2 guys that were irreplaceable, where we should have looked at replacing them through guys that were already in the program. So I am going to editorialize here, but I feel very confident in my assertion. The two guys he said that they were trying to replace without saying their name, I believe, were Jared Jones and Ethan Fry. Jared Jones and Ethan Fry are homegrown players that combined for 35 home runs last year. And he knew that coming back, you were going to have Curiel, who was not going to hit a ton of homers, and Milam, who was not going to hit a ton of homers. Brown developed into a power hitter, but was not a proven, big fly guy, 17-homer guy like he is right now. You were missing some power. So what did you do? Well, you went into the transfer portal, and you went and got Grand Canyon's all-time home run leader, Zach York. You got Braden Simpson, who hit 34 home runs his last 2 years at High Point, and you got Trent Caraway, who has been a powerful bat in his profile since high school. And those three guys have 9 home runs on the year total. And in SEC play, they're 8 for 59. That's a 136 average. They do not have an extra base hit. So what he's saying is, I went to go get power, and I didn't hit. And they don't put together professional at-bats. They don't hit the ball hard the other way. And that's where the mistakes were made. And this is not hard to deduce because he's talking about constructing the roster, and there are only 4 offensive transfers. Dardar is one of them that I didn't name there because Dardar in 12 SEC games is hitting 286 with 3 homers and 4 doubles. That's fine. Seth Dardar's fine. He hit some big home runs in Knoxville, and he hit a huge grand slam against Kentucky, and he's been okay. York, Simpson, and Caraway have lost their jobs. And this is my opinion. I don't think that was the time to say that. That's my opinion. I think Jay Johnson's the best college baseball coach in the country. There's not a single college baseball coach in America I would take in that dugout, period. He's the guy. And I think he's so calculated and he's so good and he's so invested and so involved and he does so much that's good. This, to me, was a misstep. I think he stepped out of bounds here because this is not hard to interpret. This is calling out the transfer players and suggesting that this is a failed experiment. And I think it's okay after the season's over to go, I looked at our roster and we made some decisions that in hindsight were probably misses. And just keeping it vague and moving along. That's my opinion. Y'all know how I feel about press conferences. I don't care about them. I don't believe that I don't believe the fan base is owed answers in a press conference. I believe if you want to talk about, and I use this term loosely, being owed something as a fan base, I believe you're owed effort and success. That's the expectation. I don't care what you say in a press conference. Tell me about the injuries. Don't. But I think that while this is true, what he's saying is true. I'm not discrediting that at all. What he's saying is true. But it's detrimental to the current team that at that point had 14 SEC games to play. 14. And you're suggesting that the roster is significantly flawed. That's just telling the players, hey, y'all aren't good enough. And, I just don't think that's helpful. Maybe it helps Joe and Gonzalez, who's listening, be like, at least coach knows he screwed up. And maybe that, if that's what you're looking for, you kind of got it. But I just think you got to keep your mouth shut on that one and just keep coaching them. And then if you want to suggest after the season's over that things were done that weren't right on the money, I think that's okay. But that message to that team, I don't think it benefits you at all to air that out. That's just my opinion on the matter. It's one of those deals where it's not a right or a wrong thing. It's just an opinion. And I'm always love them up, love them up, love them up guy. That's why I don't understand home fans booing their own team. I just feel like you should want to encourage your team to do well. But some people feel like, no, I bought my ticket. I paid my dues. This is expensive. If I think you're not playing well, I can boo like that. And nobody's right or wrong. It's just a feeling. And I just was very surprised to hear Jay Johnson say that. And so the inclination is that they're going to build power with development in the program instead of chasing it. Now, look, Jacob Berry hit for some power. Tommy White hit for some power. For a second baseman, Danny Dickinson hit for some power. Braden Jobert wasn't a homegrown player. Luis Hernandez hit some huge home runs last year and was a big-time slugger. Like, they have had success going to the portal and getting guys that can hit homers. So I wouldn't completely abandon that at all. I think it's just about evaluation, and it's tough because it's speed dating. Guys go in the portal, and you gotta go. And for LSU, you've spent 2 of the last 3 Junes playing all the way through. So it's difficult to try to beat Florida in the National Championship Series and work the portal. But I would suggest that you can't just completely abandon getting guys that can hit for power. But this is a reminder, in recruiting, Paul Maneri once said this. He once said, if I recruit a power-hitting high school player, this was before the portal, right? If I recruit a power-hitting high school player and he gets to LSU and can't really hit for power, he cannot help at all. If I recruit a shortstop center fielder who is a great high school hitter and doesn't quite translate to the college level hitting, at least he can defend. At least he can run the bases. At least he can help me in some way. Power hitters either hit for power or it's over. There is no other aspect to the game. And these guys hit for a lot of power, and they're not at LSU, and so you've got a bunch of freshmen out there now trying to play. And I understand that some mistakes were made. I wrote a story early in the season about the struggles the transfer class was having. I just don't see it as completely beneficial to air that out in public. And look, people disagree. I had a conversation with Musso about it earlier. He thought it was great. He loves the transparency. I just think that calling your players out in the middle of the season is probably more detrimental than it is helpful. And again, to be very clear, nobody I want in that dugout more than Jay Johnson at LSU. He is the best college baseball coach in the country. This is just a situation where I happen to disagree. Is what it is. Curious your thoughts. If y'all are in the Bayou Ford chat, fire away. Let me know what you think. If y'all are on Twitter and you want to shoot me a tweet with how you felt about the comments, curious everyone's thoughts. So we'll get to some of that. Maybe comment more on that in hour number 2. We're going to transition out of baseball. We've done 30 minutes up front on baseball. LSU played a lot of football on Saturday, and it looked a lot different than the previous Saturday. I'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com is the website. Don't worry about the website. Just go hit some golf balls. It's an awesome spot to work on your game. You don't have to worry about whether or not the driving range has grass on it. Don't have to worry about whether or not the wind's blowing too hard. Don't have to worry about if it rained really good or if the balls are all scuffed up. Like, there are some issues going to some driving ranges, right? Well, take those away. Go to Swing Easy Golf Club. Work in a climate-controlled setting on the driving range setting. You can see the trajectory of your shots. You can see your carry distance. You can see where your club impacts the ball. That's always been very helpful as I hit golf shots over at Swing Easy Golf Club. No matter if you're a scratch golfer or you're just picking the game up, it's a great place to work on your golf game. So go by and see him on Segan at Perkins or online at swingeasygcbr.com. But go by and see him. Again, Segan at Perkins, Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Summer months are just about upon us here. We know what that means in this part of the world. That, of course, means storm season. You want to make sure that your roof is fortified for storm season, right? We'll get the folks at Lifetime Roofing to do an inspection. They'll go up there, and if they think that you need a new roof, they'll tell you that. If they think that you just need a repair, they'll tell you that. If you just want to fortify your roof and make sure that it's in the best shape it can possibly be in, they'll do a tune-up for you at Lifetime Roofing as well. If you're looking to sell your home, and that may mean, hey, probably need to get a new roof put on this thing, but don't want to bite that entire chunk at once, they got financing options available for 18 months at Lifetime Roofing if you need a new roof. And also, if you need to finance a deductible, they can do that for you at Lifetime Roofing as well. They're online at lifetimeroofingla.com. Baton Rouge based, proud to be from South Louisiana. Need a new roof or just need an inspection to see if you need a new roof, lifetimeroofingla.com is that website. All right, let's talk about LSU's football team inside Tiger Stadium on Saturday. just as a preface to this entire conversation, I think y'all are all aware of this, but I'm out there every single day, so it's front of mind for me and may not be for you since you never see any of this stuff. They don't tackle. So you take everything with a significant grain of salt, right? One of the most important aspects of the game of football is tackling, and they don't do it. So everything you see in the running game is a little iffy, and big plays are a little bit iffy, and quarterback sacks are sometimes counted and sometimes not. It's not real football. There's just some things you can draw from it, and I just want to preface every discussion that we have on that. But I will tell you this. We have been inside Tiger Stadium the last 2 Saturdays. We have seen well over 200 plays. And the first time we were in Tiger Stadium a week ago Saturday was an awful display of offensive football. Awful. 5 interceptions, a fumble, real difficulty trying to complete passes. Offensive line was getting beat. Plays were being whistled down for sacks. Very little in the way of ground game. Again, no tackles. But it was a terrible offensive effort a week ago Saturday. And Lane Kiffin talked about that, said it was discouraging. And, like, I don't think anybody overreacted to it in the media. But, like, if you were watching a week ago Saturday, it was a tough scene. And we went in there on Saturday, and I kind of expected to see more of the same. It was 1 week later. The offense was really good on Saturday. And I said this last week, and I'll say it again today. That's a very, very encouraging thing to see. I'm now moving forward, based on the things that I have seen the last 4 years at LSU practice preseason, I am very tuned in to making sure that one side of the ball doesn't dominate. Because LSU's offense never got stopped in 2023 when we were out there. Turns out that defense was atrocious. And LSU's offense was a bucket of yuck in August of this past year, and it translated. So you need to see both sides winning days. That's something that I'm going to be looking for moving forward. LSU's offense very clearly won the day on Saturday. They scored 10 touchdowns in various periods. Some were full field drives. Some was in the red zone. Some were, midfield. There were 10 touchdowns. I thought throughout the entirety of the scrimmage, the offense moved the ball. They were a high percentage completion. They got some big plays on the ground. They made some huge explosive plays through the air. And I thought both scholarship quarterbacks did a nice job. No one threw an interception. It should be noted that Longstreet had one dropped in the 2-minute period. Longstreet sailed one, and Traylon James from McNeese dropped it. From Southern, dropped it. But the next play, Longstreet came back and hit Winnie Watkins for a 58-yard touchdown. He also hit Jackson Harris up the seam on the second drive of the day for a 40-yard touchdown. That was right between DJ Pickett and Jakeem Jackson. It was a heck of a throw. Later on in the scrimmage, Longstreet and Harris hooked up again for a 46-yard catch and run. And then another one to Harris was a little scramble drill and thrown down into the end zone and caught for a 25-yard touchdown. I had that as a sack. I think that Charles Ross came off the edge and probably got there, but he did scramble free, and he did make a play. So it was a 3-touchdown day for Jackson Harris, and Longstreet looked really good. I also saw Longstreet use his legs in the red zone, ran it in off the offensive right side to the pylon against the first-team defense. And I thought Landon Clark, who was bad a week ago from Saturday, was much better. After throwing 3 interceptions in the first scrimmage we saw, he never put the ball in harm's way on Saturday. Made a great throw to Phillip Wright for a fade on about a 20-yarder on a touchdown drive. He also had a 20-yard seam route to Jace Brown. The best play he made might have been a 2-point conversion where they snapped it to Landon Clark. He felt pressure off the offensive right side. He stepped up and under it and then fired a dart on a 2-point conversion into the back of the end zone where Phillip Wright hauled it in. I thought Longstreet was better. I thought Longstreet was sensational, really. But I thought Landon Clark had a really good day. And I just was glad to see that. I was glad to see Jackson Harris making big plays. I was glad to see Winnie Watkins making big plays. I was glad to see Jace Brown make a nice catch, Phillip Wright getting in on the act. I thought you saw some explosive runs. Harlan Berry shook free a couple times. Dylan Jones shook free once. They were the guys that took most of the reps with the first team. And so you're starting to see guys that I'm noticing more often. I'm noticing Winnie Watkins more often. I'm noticing Jackson Harris more often. I'm noticing Jace Brown more often. Those three guys appear to me to be the most used wide receivers. Now, there were a couple wide receivers down today, Saturday. Trey Brown did not practice, the Old Dominion transfer. Trey Wilson from Florida did not practice either, and those are guys that came in with really good pedigrees. But I think right now Watkins and Harris and Brown are the three guys to kind of look for at wide receiver. Of course, Trey Green is a guy to look for. He was very uninvolved in the scrimmage on Saturday. He's had a no-contact jersey on all of spring and has done a lot, but has also taken some reps off. So those are the pass catchers I think are the most involved. I think Harlan Berry and Dylan Jones are the guys who will likely carry the biggest load at running back. Not discounting Caden Durham at all, but he worked with the 2s and 3s most of the time on Saturday. And again, it's spring and it's a scrimmage. They substitute very, very liberally. But the point of the matter is that it would have been a little bit concerning, not gravely concerning. You realize it's spring and the starting quarterback's not out there, so no reason to have huge sweeping takes on the offense if it wasn't great. But just to see them find a stride was encouraging, and to create the big plays they created, to move the balls consistently, and they did, and to score the way that they did was encouraging after how poorly they played the week prior. And it was great to see Husan Longstreet lead that 2-minute drive where he could have been picked, but then came back and threw a gorgeous pass to Winnie Watkins for a big play. It was good stuff, and so it was nice to see on Saturday. Just some housekeeping items. Beyond that, Scott Starzik, the kicker, was a perfect 3 for 3 from inside 40 yards. Sean Perrette also made a kick from 37. He's in the competition. Gavin Higgins from Parkview missed wide right from 37. But I think Starzik is right now very much the leader for that starting kicking role, but there's still some competition at that spot. As far as attendance goes, Sam Levitt and Whit Weeks did not dress and participate. Obviously, Jamarcus Cooley was there but did not dress out. Jace Thomas took the first team reps for the most part at safety for Cooley. Fahim Delane and CJ Jim Coyley also played a little bit as well. I mentioned Trey Brown and Trey Wilson missed the scrimmage. William Satterwhite was not there. He was the last missing of the scholarship players, so they rotated a little bit at backup center with Ryan Moret, the true freshman, as well as Christian Stamps, that's Ashton's brother, and then Jaquan Sprinkle, who's been playing guard for most of the spring, got some reps snapping the ball as well. So that was kind of the housekeeping for the day on Saturday. Last thing I have written down in my notes here was a nice touchdown catch at the end of scrimmage. Last play that we saw was a touchdown to J.D. LaFleur, the now redshirt freshman, maybe sophomore. I'm not sure if he redshirted or not. May have played some special teams. Second year tight end from Salter, obviously David's son, who's a big physical kid, but he made a nice catch from Emil Picarella for a touchdown to kind of end the scrimmage. So that's a look at what we saw on Saturday. If you'd like to read about the football scrimmage, you can do that on LouisianaSports.net. Encourage y'all, if you're locked in on LSU, if you go to LouisianaSports.net, you click the Teams tab. There's an LSU tab, and you can just find all the LSU content right there. Every sport. So we got spring football reports are on there. Got baseball stories, columns up there. My Around the Horn piece is there as well. And we've also are going to have some basketball news coming out this week. LSU is going to start getting some transfer portal ads this week. I was told some good news over the weekend, and would anticipate that news is going to start trickling out here over the next 3 days or so. So I know it's been quiet, but we'll write those up. I'll break that news as it happens, and then we'll have reactions to all that as well. So if you want to stay locked in on the print version of your LSU coverage, do it over at LouisianaSports.net for free. Come back and close out the hour next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com. Jonathan Carbo and his team are phenomenal folks to work with in the insurance game. They're experts. That's what they are. That's why they get clients. That's why they keep clients, the Highland Insurance Group, because they take care of their clients. They do that by making sure that when you pay that good money for your premiums, that you have the coverage on the back end that protects your business. If you're a business owner and you want to focus on what it is that you do, as opposed to what kind of EPL coverages you should have, or what you need cyber coverage for, or whether or not your umbrella limit is proper. If you don't want to deal with any of that stuff, just trust your broker. You trust your attorney. You trust your CPA. Trust your insurance broker the same way. And trust the Howard Insurance Group to take care of you in that way. They're here in Baton Rouge. They can help you out anywhere in the state of Louisiana. Check them out online at HighlandIG.com. That's HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Friends at GoTro's Outdoor Power, GoTrosOnline.com, GoTrosOnline.com. They are fired up to continue what great savings they were offering in March for Mower Madness into the month of April. If you're looking for $350 off the Raptor series, they got it. Up to $550 off of the Fast Tracker series. They got it right there at GoTro's Outdoor Power. They've been at this 22 years. Baton Rouge and Gonzales. Family owned and operated. That does not mean small. The opposite of small, actually. Largest parts inventory in Louisiana, largest hustler dealer in the state by far. And you're talking about the National Hustler Dealer of the Year, 2 of the last 3 years. So if you need a new zero-turn mower, you need to get by my friends at GoTro's Outdoor Power. It's that time of year. Grass is going to be growing like crazy from now through October, right? So get by and see them in Baton Rouge on Airline Highway or in Gonzales. GoTro's Outdoor Power. You can find them online at GoTrosOnline.com. All right, one season in the books here at LSU. Another phenomenal year for Jay Clark's gymnastics squad. I will not for 1 second pretend to be any sort of expert or really knowledgeable in any way about the inner workings of gymnastics. I don't know that. I know LSU is really good. I know Kalen Chio is really, really good. And I know LSU was an eyelash away from winning the program's second national championship. I also know that Oklahoma is a juggernaut and that's who LSU went blow for blow with for every event. And I watched Jay Clark address his team after it was over, and I thought his message to the women was fantastic. It was like, it's okay to be disappointed, but you got to understand how well you did. And I don't know anything about scoring in gymnastics either, but his message was like, you went to the final and posted that number. Like, that's why you show up. And the thing about gymnastics that I do know is that you can't play defense. Like, the other team's going to do what they do. All you can control is what your score is. And LSU went out there and put up a great score. They went to the last event with a chance to win the meet and win the championship and finished less than 1/100th of a point from a title. Jay Clark is such an awesome dude. I have an opportunity to sit down with him every football season and talk about his team. He always wants to talk about the game, the football game that's coming up when I chat with him. But he has taken the baton from D.D. Bro and elevated this program. And I think one of the things that I appreciate so much about Jay Clark and about this team specifically is that I know that you also lost Haley Bryant, who's the greatest gymnast in the history of the school. And to elevate and to get to second place without your best player is amazing. I mean, look at what happened to LSU when Joe Burrow left. Look what happened to LSU when Paul Skeens walked out. Look what happened to LSU when they didn't have Kate Anderson on Fridays anymore. And they lost their best player, gymnast in this case, and just about got to the finish line. And all those girls were devastated. You could see the look in their eyes. And I did laugh at this too. I think that there's just a little bit of difference in addressing female athletes and male athletes in this way. Jay Clark said, there shouldn't be any crying. And then he stopped himself and he goes, well, I know you're going to cry, but you should hold your heads up. And there were a lot of tears. And trust me, there are a lot of tears when football seasons and baseball seasons and basketball seasons in too. No doubt about it. But you don't often hear the coach of a men's team go, well, you're going to cry. But he did, and he was great in consoling those women, and they had a phenomenal season. I was in the press box calling Saturday's game as the national final was going on, so didn't get an opportunity to watch it. I did get a report from my living room that the Myers man was distraught after LSU lost. He called me to let me know that one of the women fell down, but she didn't get hurt, which was good. But he was not happy that LSU did not win. Did not want to play outside after. He was just wanted to pout. So just a tough loss for the Myers man, tough loss for Jay Clark. and that team, but an incredible season, and that program is just in an awesome spot. And you look around this campus, and you continue to see championship-level performances. I know that the tennis teams have elevated their play a lot. The golf teams are fantastic, and so those are not sports that we give a lot of airtime here to. We talk a lot of football, we talk a lot of basketball, we talk a lot of baseball. But when you do something that great, it deserves the last 4 minutes here of hour number one. So I wanted to hat tip to Jay Clark, who's done an awesome job, and I'm told that LSU's got a lot of really good gymnasts coming back for next year and should be right back in that position, and understand that the experiences that they had there on Saturday will only help them as they move forward, and that's something else that Jay Clark kind of alluded to when he addressed his team at the end of the season. So great work by LSU Gym, second place nationally for Jay Clark's program, and they'll run it back next year, and I'm sure they'll be right back in the same spot. We'll run it back for hour number two. If you missed any of hour number one, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt Palmer Show wherever you find your podcast. Like, subscribe, rate, review. That always helps us out a ton, so appreciate y'all for doing that. If you're just looking for LSU content, Hunt on LSU. You got it. Just looking for Saints content, Hunt on Saints. You can find us there. Subscribe to those channels as well. Get those notifications when we post a new video, which is just about every single day. Got a lot to do in hour number two as well. Garrett Nussmeier received a diagnosis, and I'm a little iffy on the time frame of all this based on his comments at the Combine and what we've learned today. But it is an interesting thing. We've got a story up on it, LouisianaSports.net, and we'll talk about that in hour number two. I'm not done talking about this baseball team either. They've still got 12 SEC games to go, so we'll discuss that. But when we come back after SportsCenter, we're going to pause for some national headlines and then get back to it. The Saints going to be on the clock coming up in 4 days. There are mock drafts flying everywhere. There are NFL teams that are making moves, and we got to talk about what's to come on this draft week in the National Football League. We'll do that after SportsCenter. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC, FabryChevrolet.com, FabryChevrolet.com. Every car that is on the lot is online at FabryChevrolet.com. Go see them. Highway 61 in St. Francisville, under new management, the Fabry family, since October the 1st. So if you haven't been up there since October, go see them. We've got an incredible inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. And if you're looking for a truck, there's no better place to go than Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Up to $11,000 off Silverados. Up to $11,000 off Chevy Silverados. You can get those maybe 1.9 APR financing. We're talking about up to $13,000 off GMC Sierras. 0.0 APR financing. If you're looking for a new SUV, you're going to take the family on a road trip once the kids get out of school, Fabry Chevrolet GMC is an awesome place to get by and see the Tahoes, see the Suburbans, see the Yukons, see the Nollies. Get behind the wheel of a new vehicle. It's always going to come with a wonderful buying experience from the folks at Fabry. Check them out online, FabryChevrolet.com.